Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into this, just want to ask a question, so leave your comments down below. Have you been custom fit for your current set of clubs? If so, what was the experience? And if you haven't been custom fit, why haven't you been custom fit? And do you plan on getting a session done in the future? Leave your comments down below. Right, so a couple of days ago, I went down to see a friend, fellow PJ member, Joe, who has set up a new facility in Barnstable called TourTech Golf. Now, the idea of TourTech Golf is to provide a premium, professional, tour level fitting facility in the Southwest. You cannot get anything near this level of fitting unless you travel to literally London, which is quite a long way from us. It's like 3 hours up the road. Now, he's just set this up. He's waiting on a few other bits, you know, shaft, heads, bits and pieces like that before it's fully operational, but he's taking bookings at the moment. So if you are in this area, after watching this video, you're probably gonna want to go and see him. Now, up until this point, my current set of clubs, I sort of picked what specs I wanted, ordered them, didn't get a proper tour level fit, and I haven't checked my current setup. So in this video, we're checking the setup of my irons and my 3-woods, my driver. We're checking the whole bag. He's going to talk through the equipment that he has, what does what, how this could influence my golf game as a whole. So if you're into golf equipment, specs, all that stuff, you're going to really like this video. It is mostly dialogue, I warn you now. So if you have the attention span of a 12-year-old on TikTok, you're probably going to not stick around to the end. But if you want to learn something about golf equipment and how it could actually help your game getting properly fit, then make sure you watch all of this video, because there's going to be some big takeaways from this. Now, you're going to see how much knowledge that Joe has in this field. There's going to be a part 2 to this video. So the next video is going to follow on with the changes that I'm making to my specs in my bag. Just this one, we're going to go through the whole bag. Ryan's also there as well. It's interesting. Have a watch, and I'll see you at the end. So we're inside TourTech Golf. We've got Ryan, and do you want to introduce yourself to the channel?
Hello, I'm Joe Ferguson, owner of TourTech Golf.
Do you want to show us like what you've got in here? Because in the Southwest, we're not blessed with fitting facilities at all. I think you have to travel to Basingstoke to get the closest thing, basically.
Yeah, 100%. So that's kind of what, kind of the gap in the market, I guess, I'm trying to exploit. So I used to work, so Ryan just mentioned to me that he used to go to Jason McNiven Golf Principles in Basingstoke. I used to work relatively close there down in Surrey at Precision Golf. And it's kind of like, what's the right way of putting it? Sort of like fitting on steroids, basically. So it's, is that too much?
That's one way of putting it. I mean, yeah, they're used to this kind of chat, mate, so right, it's absolutely fine.
So your standard fitting, where you'd go in, you'd hit a few balls, you'd see some numbers, try a few clubs out. It's fine, it works, and it's certainly better than nothing. What we do here is try and sort of factor in every variable possible of all the parameters of your club, from exact loft and lie using our digital loft and lie machines, shaft frequency, so giving you an exact quantifiable number of shaft flex rather than your standard sort of stiff and regulars and stuff like that. Digital swing weight machine, so getting clients to have an understanding of swing weight, not only the total weight of the golf club, which I'll show you in a minute, versus where that weight is distributed in the club. Basically, once you've done that, which we've already just done on James' equipment,
yeah, we're going to go through that in a second.
We'll go through in a sec. You get a spreadsheet to tell you where everything's sitting and everything's lying, so you can start to see any discrepancies that might come up from there. So, yeah, equipment-wise, just take you through one.
Yeah, let's have a look at what you've got.
James's 3-iron. So we're measuring out 3-iron. We've already got a length up here of 39.75 shaft length. We then go and check the swing weight. So this tells us whereabouts the weight of this, whereabouts in this golf club the weight is distributed, essentially. So
like a perceived feel when you're swinging it, basically.
Exactly that. So James clubs are fractionally longer than standard, so you'd expect a slightly heavier swing weight. So it gives you a number here with a letter and a number. So James's 3-iron here, D7.2. It's on the heavy end. But we need to then watch him hit balls to see how that affects timing and strike. It might be in a great place. We're just looking at it as a kind of a raw spec at the moment.
Yep.
Then from there, we then go on to shaft frequency. So taking into account that length, clump the butt in here, give it a little twang, and we end up with a shaft frequency number which then translates onto here and gives us a number in terms of an exact flex. So we know that these are playing pretty stout. We're going to discuss this in a minute because there's a bit of an anomaly in there. Then we then go and work on loft and lie. So if I'm through on slot, this is the MR3 True Blue machine that they use on a lot of tour vans on tour, tailor-made certainly, Callaway I believe, in the US as well. So you get yourself set up in here, we can get the exact loft and lie measurements, even on woods to be fair, which is really useful about the True Blue machine. So we then translate what we see on here onto the spreadsheet, so then we'll have a look through that spreadsheet to see if there's any discrepancies, which we've highlighted a couple with James, it might help.
And then moving on to the other stuff, Trackman.
So we've got Trackman 4 launch monitor into our big hitting bay here, projector up there, drinks fridge important on a day like this, digital putter loft and line machine over there.
Oh right, okay, that's a pretty cool bit of kit.
Yes, that's a good bit of kit. And then we've got our interchangeable putter system here, so you can try any heads. So we've got, like everyone else, we've been struggling a bit with product coming in because you can try any head with any length of shaft, with any grip combination, so you're actually trying the putter you're going to end up with rather than, okay mate, that's pretty good. You
sort of a bit of guesswork and we'll send you that type thing,
Exactly that, it takes the guesswork out a bit. We can also, because we've got this here, we can bend the putter in fitting to check with Capto and our other launch monitors the changes we're making to see, you know, if it's loft, for example, is the ball launching as it should be, lie angle, is it soling out as flat as it should be, so we can do that in the middle of the fit, and then we will again translate it all to the spec machine and work out what we need from there.
You're going to get into some numbers now.
We are going to get into some numbers. So spec out all your gear. You've noticed, I think, you know, we've played together and we've obviously had a chat about your game. We've noticed there's a couple of things you'd mentioned that you'd seen in your game, and it sort of rings true and bears through on when we look at the specs here. So 2-iron in particular is an area of concern. That's with your game and the way you play and the distance you hit it and drive it, as you said, not being that comfortable at the moment. It's quite an important part of your bag, isn't it? So
yes, it is. That's my club that I choose when I'm trying to get it in play, and what we've basically realised is that that's the complete opposite setup for that at the moment for me. So
it's playing, if you want to go through the specs wise, it's playing a lot flatter than your 3-iron, which when we're talking about lie angles, that's going to affect the initial start direction and potentially curvature of your shots. It's come out pretty stock really. It's the same length as your 3-iron, but with a shaft that's about, essentially, if you read the labels, it's 50 grams lighter. Also, with it being lighter, its frequency and probably a couple of flexes softer, and the real concern for me is probably the swing weight. So your 3-iron at D7.2 pretty heavy, your 2-iron coming in at D1 or fractionally less. It's a huge difference in feel that's going to affect timing, and you cited to me a couple of shots you hit in the last event where you're just playing a shot and you've looked up and it's just come out of a completely different window than you were expecting it to come out of. And when you're playing the rest of your set sort of between D7 and D8.5, to chuck a rogue sort of D1 in there, flexing 2 flexes softer, is a bit of concern, especially when the lie angle's out as well. So that's
with that club we can, because the head is fantastic, like super forgiving, and it feels great. So with that club, how easy is it to, or what would you recommend the move? Because obviously Ryan just said that his setup in his utility is just basically the same iron shaft put on, which I think would work really well because it will just make it a very heavy, very stiff, shaft that doesn't really torque or anything, right? There's
a few schools of thought on this. If you go on tour, for example, it's probably 50-50. The guys that are using a 2-iron or a driving iron, there's probably 50% who kind of do that, go translate it through the set into their 2-iron, what they play in their irons, for consistency of feel, etc. Some want to see a little bit more distance out of it, and I don't know, I've not really done the testing or seen the results of the testing to suggest that going marginally lighter and putting a graphite shaft into the driving iron will produce that extra speed to kind of make it that bridge between the irons and the woods more than just an extension of the irons, if you know what I mean? literally the only way to do this, it's all very well me telling you how clever I am and what I think would happen. You've got to test it. So
you've got to test it yourself. Yeah.
Is we'd build something with 2 options. So we'd get a couple of, obviously get the Cobra adapters. We've got drawers full of adapters and stuff here.
Yep.
So we then build something up so we can test it on 2 iron, and we'll just look at the numbers. We'll check. More importantly, we'll check your feel. We'll check how you're timing it. Check how you like the feel of it, because you've got to take it out on the golf course and be comfortable with it. So yeah. So it's just building, checking, building, checking. It's not an easy wand process, but it's got to be right, because that's a huge anomaly when compared to the rest of the set. Moving down the set, the other stuff we noticed, and this can be, you play a lot of golf, you play a lot of tournament golf, you're practicing a lot of mats and stuff, etc. So these things can move, loft and lie can move. So obviously loft being where the face is pointing in terms of vertically, lie angle being how it soles out for you. So these can move when you're impacting the ground a lot. I know you wanted, we spoke about this, down the bottom end, you wanted your wedge setup to be 45 in pitching wedge, 50, 55, 60. So the big anomaly there is your gap wedge, which is 1.5 degrees weak from what that might want to be. Again, we'll do some tidying up and we'll get them all to be exactly what they need to be. So that 55 will go to 55 rather than 55.5. We need to work out whether these lie angles are going to be. And
then lie angles, I've always played 1 degree up, which feels about right. And those feel, they do feel just like slightly flat. So they're pretty much standard.
They're pretty much standard. And again, what suggests to me your gap wedge might have moved a little bit is that not only is the loft out, the lie angle's a little bit out. That's 0.5 degree out compared to the other wedges. So it might have taken a whack in the car boot. It might have taken a whack or after a
shot at Bowood last week. Maybe. You were saying Rory, DJ, they go what, so Rory, D3, D5?
Rory's pretty much D4 through the bag until wedges, which naturally get a little bit heavier. 3 to 4 swing weights heavier than that is noticeable. I would say the most sensitive of guys, of which Ryan claims to be one, sensitive man.
Very sensitive.
Could tell probably half a swing weight to a swing weight different. 4 swing weights, anyone will notice that. That is a big.
I wasn't talking about golf when you asked me about that. Emotion. Is that what you talk? Yeah, that's what I was more on about, honestly.
Oh, that's fine.
And the other thing, so grip, and this could change the swing weight.
Exactly.
I've always been mid-size. These are they're standard. So just putting a mid-size on, you said added 20 grams.
Well, it depends on the weight of these individuals. They all weigh slightly different individually, so which is why I think it's really important to weigh the components separately. So, just for example, this Golf Pride multi-compound +4 standard. This is weighing in at 50 grams, basically just over 50.6 grams. All of a sudden, we put a Tour Velvet mid-size on there, +4. And we're up to 66 and a half grams. So we're talking a big weight discrepancy. So contrary to what you might think, that'll add more mass, more static weight. So it'll essentially make the whole club heavier. But because it's going up the back end of the club, it'll make it feel a little bit lighter to swing. And as we said, from a swing weight point of view, it's more about timing. So you want to just take the club around your body, return it to here, and it just all arrive at the time it should. If there's a bit too much mass down this end, you're going to really have to work to get it to square up and get the ball. So you'll notice that A in strike, and B, if you're losing it to the right a lot, it can be a number of things, but usually a good indication I find is you might have too much head weight because you're just struggling to get it through, and vice versa. If you're in that 2 iron, you'll notice in a few lefts, it's just so light, so the head's just going to be taken over, so we'd want to rebalance that. But you've got kind of some, Ryan's pumping his fist behind because he's been going on about that for a while, apparently. So you want to...
Ryan has been going on about the fact that it may not be completely spec'd up for me for a while. So just on the driver, woods, and the hybrid, and the driver seems like it's in a good place, which would make sense because that is, one of my favourite feeling clubs in the bag. The woods, on the other hand, is slightly out. So if you just want to talk through where the numbers are. And then we'll go from there.
Right, so as you said, driver you're reasonably keen on. It's pretty standard sort of a spec driver. You've got a tensite orange shaft. It's not the Pro Series shaft, it's the AV Series, so it's slightly less high density graphite fibres. So for someone who swings it, the amount of load you put into it, I'd want to see the most premium option there. 45, fairly standard length. I mean, there's a lot of guys going a lot longer now, as we know. So Bryson testing 48s, Rory's, I think he's 46 at the moment. Generally, he's 45 3/4. But again, it depends on what you've requested and what you need. You know, if you've got enough speed, do you need to try and sneak some more with the length of shaft? Probably not. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yep.
CPM, cycles per minute, from the frequency analyzers, which gives us a frequency of 6.5. Again, reasonable place, pretty stout, no issues at all. Tensile orange is kind of a counterbalance shaft with more weight at the top end. So what that is doing to swing weight, you know, whilst there's more weight in the shaft, it's not down the head end of the golf club. So that sort of lightens up the swing weight to D1.5, which is light-ish.
Yeah.
So again, refer back to say Rory, generally he's around D4 in driver as well.
So it's literally uniform throughout the spag pretty much.
Until he gets down to wedges, which naturally just get a little bit heavier because of the head.
And is that pretty standard for tall players?
Yeah, it is really.
Okay.
There's guys that do it very differently. There's guys that do it very, very differently now, like Bryson, for example. But I'd say 80% of guys on tour would be pretty uniform with swing weight throughout the bag, because it's just timing. You don't want to have one club you're pulling out that you need to give a little bit more with the hands at the bottom to try and find strike. You just want to make the same swing and have the results come out. So again, the only other bit that you'd question, the fairway woods are playing very, very soft.
So 5.1, 4.5, that's more like,
from a spec point of view, you're probably talking
like a light reg.
Yeah, if you want to put it in those terms, it's going to feel fairly regular-ish. It's for someone who loads it like you do, that's a worry. Mainly, my main issue with that as well is the weight of them. So 3 and 5 woods, we're going to compare you to the tour guys, because that's the kind of speed you put into it. So DJ, generally speaking, in 3 wood is minimum of 75, 76 grams in his 3 wood shaft. Quite often uses, I've seen him testing the Ventus Black 8X, so that's 80 plus grams. And again, it just allows you to have that stability and know, feel where the club's going to be a little bit more. To have a approximate 60 gram fairway shaft for someone of your speed, well, generally
in the 3 and the 5.
It's a bit unusual. It's giving you really light swing weights. It's giving you very soft in terms of frequency, and it's not a surprise you maybe been steering away from those a little bit in your game. So I think there's again something we can look at in the numbers there, work on, and find a happy medium to get that put right.
Right, should we start hitting some shots? Right, it's just changing the loft and lies, starting with the loft. So the original lofts were slightly out, as you explained earlier, so we're just making it a 60, 55, 50. Obviously that's taking 1.5 off of the gap wedge, but then I'll get a nice gap in 5 degree increments until we get to 9 iron, and then 4 degree till we get to the low irons, and then 3 degree. So it's all uniform throughout the set, and then with the lie angle we're just going a degree up after the wedges basically. So we want them standard, and then a degree up, which is where I need to be. And there he is doing it.
Beautiful.
So there we go. If you're still here, you're obviously into your golf equipment, and you've got a decent attention span, so congratulations. So following on from this session, I'm obviously getting new grips, getting mid-size, which I needed anyway, which is going to change my swing weight from quite a heavy swing weight to more like a standard swing weight. I'm probably going to play around with some of the weights of the driver, especially after getting a mid-size grip. I'm going to have to do that anyway, because that's naturally going to take the swing weight down, getting a heavier grip in the end. And then there's some shaft options that I'm going for with my 2 iron, and also the 3 wood and the 5 wood, that are going to make them play completely different, be way more stable. And it's just been a massive wake-up call to realize how important the right specs are and how it can influence golf shots basically. So I hope you've enjoyed it. For now, if you want to go and follow Tour Tech Golf, Instagram, Facebook and all that, give them a follow.